All right, guys, let's continue on with my Scream reviews and talk about Scream 3, which I'm going to say right here is my least favorite Scream movie. Out of all four, this is my least favorite. And I'm going to explain really pretty quickly why I really don't like this one in terms of like as a sequel, in terms of like it's the worst sequel, but I still find some things really entertaining about it. I actually really still really like it, but it's definitely the worst sequel out of all of them. So it's weird with Scream 3 because Scream 3 is the end of a trilogy. It is a movie that is trying to wrap up the idea of the first movie and how it's resolved here with Sidney, Dewey, and Gale, and the eventual realization that this killer in this movie is the one that's going to wrap the trilogy around, and it's a a twist that I didn't really love in terms of, and again, this is spoilers, but the twist of the movie being that Roman, the guy who's the film director, is Sidney's long lost brother that Maureen Prescott didn't want. So he takes revenge and is the one who set everything in motion. Like he showed Billy and Stu the videos of Sydney's mom sleeping with Billy's dad, so then that made Billy and Stu kill everybody, and then that made Billy's mom and Mickey go and kill everybody in the second one. And it's just, it brings it full circle, but I feel like out of all of the Scream movies so far, it is the most hokiest and in a way where it's not overly charming. Because the first two, I love the first two and how charming they are. I love the fact that they're so fun, they're so cute, they're so enjoyable. This one, looking at the fact that it is a movie that is a sequel about being in Hollywood, a movie about having characters making Stab 3 in the movie, and these people are getting killed off by Roman, the director. Um, which I think in a concept I think is cool, but just how it was executed, I think it just wasn't. It was I think it was competently made, Scream 3. I think it is, and I still like it. It is still competently made. I think Wes Craven still did a good job making this movie. I felt like the structure of it was good. I felt like it was just weak in the story department and weak in really just trying to be a parody of itself. And it's so weird because you could argue that Scream is a parody, the franchise, because it is homages to other horror movies, being things copying horror movies, but in this one, it just feels so weird in how much of a parody it feels like. With stuff like, oh, you see Carrie Fisher, but it's not Carrie Fisher, and she's like, oh, it's not. That's not me who was Princess Leia. The one who was Princess Leia slept with George Lucas, which was a kind of a funny line, but it's just weird. And then like you got Jay and Silent Bob appearing randomly in the movie, like when they. So I guess they exist in the Scream universe, and they see Gale and they're like, oh look, Silent Bob, it's Connie fucking Chung. Like those are funny lines, but like they're so weird and out of place. Like this one feels so much of a parody because it's like with stuff like that. With the first two Scream movies, it is not. It is referencing horror movies. It has horror movie references everywhere, but it's not like that. Like it doesn't feel the same like that. And these characters, like the characters that are all the actors in Stab 3 that are being killed off, are easily the weakest out of all of the Scream characters. Like this is my least favorite set of characters. Sydney, I think, is still great. I love the fact that she is isolated and alone, and it makes sense with Scream 2, where she says at the beginning, "What am I supposed to do, Dewey? Am I supposed to hide under a rock?" And she does in this movie. After she survives Scream 2, she just hides and is kind of just separate from the world. And I think that's interesting. I do like that idea. And Dewey and Gale, I like their on and off relationship. I think their stuff is interesting in it. But every other character is just whatever. Like they're fun, but they're just not very interesting. Like say Jenny McCarthy, who gets killed pretty quickly, but she's kind of funny in how she talks. But still, it's just kind of they're just kind of really forgettable, like in terms of the broad spectrum of all the Scream movies. And you've got the random guy on the cover, like you know how the Scream covers have like usually 4 or 5 people. It's got Sydney, Dewey, and Gale, and then 2 others. it has the random actor guy who like barely has any lines in this movie, and I'm like, that's weird that he is in on the poster art. That's so weird. Like this guy, I think his name's Tyson. Like he literally has like barely any lines. Um, like he plays Ricky, who is the version of Randy in Stab 3, but it's just kind of forgettable. The only character out of these actor characters I thought was memorable was Parker Posey as trying to be the version of Gale Weathers that she's playing in Stab 3. She is really interesting, like in terms of her performance. Like her performance is fun. Like I liked her lines. Whenever Gale punches her, Parker Posey, she goes on the ground and she goes, "My lawyer liked that." Like those kind of lines are funny from her, and she gives a lot of fun lines. And Parker Posey is just one of those character actors that I think just does a good job with not much, if that makes sense. Like she just does a good job with a weak character. Like I thought that she was interesting and fun. She has those mouth reactions that are so funny because she's got like her gut out. Like she's just like, whenever she says stuff like, "Are you gonna take us to him or not?" and then she's got like her mouth out. Like it's funny, and it's just she's very memorable. With most of the lines that are in the movie, like she's so odd. Like there's a scene where Jenny McCarthy gets killed, and then she's like, "I'm next, I'm next." And then she's like, "Dewey, look, this is me smoking. I haven't done this for 2 years. Somebody's gonna pay for this." And she starts smoking like that. Those lines are funny, and I think that she is a really funny actress in this movie, and I think she's honestly one of the best parts of it. And I used to hate her performance, but every time I rewatch this movie, I think that she's even more fun and more entertaining. Like I think that she did a lot with nothing. Like it's very cool how much of a good character actor she was. And I like seeing Patrick Warburton here. I like that he calls Dewey Dewdrop. That's pretty funny. Liev Schreiber appears, but is killed in the opening credits, which is fine, I guess. But it's like, poor Cotton. He didn't get anything in life. He like went to prison, wrongfully accused of rape and murder, and then he gets out of prison, gets his own TV show, and then a killer kills him. Or Roman kills him, and then it's like, well, that sucks, man. Liev Schreiber, that sucks. Like I really like Liev Schreiber in these movies, so it's just sad that he like gets killed off. But I mean, it's something like say Randy in Scream 2. Like it sucks when he dies too, but like it makes sense in the context of the story that Cotton dies in this, that he's killed off by Roman. That of course makes sense, but it's just kind of sad that he's gone because I like Liev Schreiber. I think that would be cool to see more of him in the movie because in Scream 2 he was such a treat. He was so great. So I like that. The movie is it's not that gory, and the making of this movie was hard because I heard this was being made the exact same time Columbine happened. So they had to follow that weird line of like, how much violence can we show? Because we just had a real horrific violent incident in real life. How are we going to make a horror movie where that's happened? And it's very interesting because this movie feels neutered in that way. Like it just doesn't feel as much like a Scream movie with like the violence. It doesn't feel that violent at all. Which, I mean, I understand. Like they were trying to make the best out of a horrible real life situation that happened, and they were going to make sure that they didn't want that to be replicated. But it just stinks because this one makes it even less so good as well because of that. So what I'm saying is the main characters are fine. Parker Posey's good. Patrick Warburton's fun. That Patrick Dempsey I think is fine. Patrick Dempsey's partner cop, he is hilarious. This guy has so many deadpan lines where he says like whenever Roman gets arrested, Patrick Dempsey's cop partner says, "And this is the part of the movie where you come with us and we arrest you." Like those are great lines. Or like whenever Cotton gets killed and then everybody on stage is talking about it and they're like, movies don't affect real life. And then the cop assistants or the cop partner of Patrick Dempsey says, "It's a movie called Stab. He was stabbed." Like that, those lines are great. Like I said, he's so deadpan, the cop's assistant or the cop's partner. And Patrick Dempsey, like I said, is good. So the characters I think are mostly good. All the other ones are whatever, like Angelina, who plays Sydney in the Stab 3. This is so confusing to say, but Sydney in Stab 3, she's okay. I would have thought she would have been the second killer because this is the only Scream movie so far for the first four that like only has, this is the only movie that has one killer in it. But I was assuming Angelina would have been the second killer, but she was not. It was not implied that she was, but I felt like it could have been because there were a lot of weird times she was just gone in the movie. And like I said, all the other characters are pretty whatever. And this is also I want to point out too, this movie is interesting because it is a movie about Hollywood produced by the Weinstein brothers, and it has a lot of details about, like, a lot of storyline details about Maureen Evans or Maureen Prescott and being in Hollywood and sleeping around with guys to get parts. And it's so meta. It's so meta, but it's kind of disturbing because this is produced by the Weinstein brothers, who slept around with a lot of women, who got them to be in roles because they slept with the Weinsteins. So it's almost like it's glorifying that. It's almost like the Weinsteins were glorifying that they were doing this, like sleeping with people for them to get roles. It's very weird, and I know that Hollywood, old Hollywood especially, in real life did this shit where like it was a lot of women would have to sleep with people to get parts. It wasn't a good thing at all. But man, just the fact that it feels like it's kind of glorifying the situation because the Weinsteins produced this movie, and yet they're talking about stuff that they did. Like, that's very weird. And there's that line that Angelina says towards the end of the movie before she gets killed, where she says, "I did not fuck that pig Milton just to die with second-rate celebrities like you too." Like, that line is just so weird because, again, it is something that really was going on with the producers of this movie. That's so odd. I don't get that. Like, I don't get how they played it straight. And then the news came out later about the Me Too movement and all that, especially around that time of the Weinsteins and all the shit that was happening with all these actresses that slept with them because of that. It's very fascinating. Like, it's not a good thing, but it's very weird to see the commentary on that in this movie. I like that this one felt complete, even though it feels like the weakest story, because again, it's set on a movie within a movie. It's got Roman as the killer, who I think the long lost relative thing is just kind of hokey, not in a way where it was entertaining, but I did think the actor who played Roman, like, the lines he was given were really good, where like he would say like you took away everything from me. He said, "Yeah, I should have had your life. I should have been the one who had your mother's love. Like everything should have belonged to me." Like, I liked that villain motivation, but it's just in a weak story. Like, and it's just a weak idea of like this guy you never saw before is the long lost brother. Like, it seems silly. So what I'm saying is this movie has a lot of flaws to it, but I enjoy it. I think it's easily the weakest of the 4 Scream movies so far, but like I said, it's got some good performances, it's got some funny moments, but it's just really weak in the story department, like, definitely, and it's also neutered down because of the violence issue in real world during that time. So it's a weird mishmash of the sequel. I liked how it felt complete though at the end. I felt like it did do a good job of feeling complete, even though we got Scream 4 and now Scream 5 coming out, but I liked that it felt complete at first. Like, I thought that was good. But that's all I'm going to say about Scream 3. I enjoy it, even though it's got a lot of flaws to it. So next up is Scream 4. Stay tuned for that, and I'll see you guys later. Take care.